Hello, and welcome to Yoga with Yo Gabriella. My goal is to enhance the quality of your experiences and your energy so that you can embody your essence, to understand the language of your body, and to realign the posture of your heart so you can fully indulge with the richness of life. So, whether you're new or you're coming back, I'm so blessed to have you part of this tribe to share this experience with you, and I'm truly honored that you're here. So, whenever you're ready, grab your mat and let's get started. We're going to get started on our backs. Your knees can be bent, your hands can be over your belly. We're just going to take a moment to ground ourselves. Starting to have awareness of what's going on in the body, any sensations, any chaos or clutter in the mind. Remembering that this is the opportunity to practice that mindfulness. We're going to take a deep breath in from the nose and exhale the mouth. Inhale. And as you let go, see if you can relax the body. Taking another deep breath in. And letting it go. If there's one word that you want to focus on for this practice today, you can go ahead and set that intention. Allow it to be an anchor of a state of mind that you want to remain in or embody. Slowly, we're going to just start to walk our feet apart, bringing our feet mat distance apart. Your hands can be over your belly. You can open your hands out wide into a T, or you can bring them up overhead, grabbing opposite elbows. And we're gently going to start to awaken the hips by, with control and intentions, rocking your knees from one side to another, kind of like a windshield wipers. See if you can move slow and bring a visualization or imagination towards your hips. What does it look like within the bones and the muscles surrounding and the tendons and the joints as you move your hips and your knees from side to side? Do you notice any crinkles, any clicks? Maybe you notice something in your lower back, your pelvis. Relaxing the pelvic floor muscles and synchronizing your breath with your movement. Slowly, you can bring your knees back up towards center. Your left foot remains on the ground, and we're going to draw the right knee in towards the chest, wrapping our hands behind the right knee. We're going to start to get into some nerve flosses. So we're going to start to point the toes, and then using our quad, pressing the tops of our feet, we're going to straighten the leg up towards the ceiling. You can still have a micro bend within the knee. You don't have to straighten it all the way. Flex the toes towards your face, and you're going to press through your heel and your Achilles, kind of like you're trying to squeeze your hands. Bending that knee, bringing your hip down towards your glute. pointing the toes and straightening the leg back up towards the ceiling. Flex the toes towards your face, kind of like you're pressing a button with your heel, bending that knee. We're going to do 3 more of these, going at your own pace, and making sure that we're utilizing the muscles of our legs to support the function and the movement versus putting a lot of strain on the joint. You want to try to keep your knee stacked over your hip as much as possible. You don't really need to draw your knee in towards your head or your face. Then on our last one, we're just going to lift our toes up towards the ceiling, and we're just going to do some ankle circles. So spreading the toes nice and wide and making a circle with your ankle, going in one direction and then go in the opposite direction. Notice if your breath stops or stiffens here. And then slowly with control, you can bring your right leg back down towards the mat. If you want to extend it out in front of you for a moment, allow the blood flow to come back towards the feet. And then whenever you're ready, you bend the right knee and the left knee comes in towards your chest, wrapping your hands behind your left knee. Doing those nerve flosses, you're going to point your toes and then straightening the leg up towards the ceiling. It's kind of like you're pressing the back of your knee into your hands. Your back is flat, your shoulders are relaxed, flexing the toes towards the face, pressing through that heel to squeeze the back of your hands, bending that knee. Pointing the toes, straightening the legs, making sure that you're activating the quad. The hips are stable, toes are towards the face. Maybe you feel engagement of the glutes as you press and squeeze that leg down. We'll do 3 more. See if you can move slow. It's quality over quantity. You want to make sure that you're having that connection from the base of your heel, maybe even the toes, all the way towards your hip. And on your last one, we're going to go ahead, point the toes up towards the ceiling and doing those ankle circles. Notice the sensations that you feel in your toes, all the little joints and bones in your feet. We have 26 of them. How it bears all the weight of our body. Go in the opposite directions, relaxing the shoulders. And then slowly, with control, you can bring that leg back down towards the mat. If you need to, extend your left leg out in front of you. Get the blood flow moving back towards your feet, your toes. If you want to rock your hips from side to side, you can. And now we're going to start to activate the core a little bit. So if you have your block, we're actually going to use both of these blocks. We're going to put one block in between our legs. The other block is going to be placed in our hands, and we're going to bring our hands up overhead behind us. So the block can be on the floor, and the other block is going to be more closer towards your knees. We're going to lift our feet off the ground. The block above our head is to keep our arms stable and the back of our ribs pressed into the mat. So we want to make sure that we have a flat back and that there's no gap between our spine and the mat. When you find the embracement of your core, where it's kind of like your ribs are hugging your diaphragm towards the center, the core should not be bulging out, but it should be relatively flat. Engaging the pelvic floor muscles, we're going to start to straighten our legs as much as possible. Now you can have this hovered over the mat, or you can lift your legs up diagonal towards the ceiling. Whatever it is that you need to feel comfortable, and then drawing your legs back in. Now you can play around with the block between your legs. You can take it out, you can put it by your ankles. We're going to do slow, very slow and controlled movements. What I like to say is pretend like you're on a paddle board or even on a mattress, where you need to use those stability muscles to support your core. Remember to breathe. Your body definitely should be trembling and shaking. I know mine is. We're going to do 3 more of these. Maybe you point your toes. The shoulders remain on the mat. Your jaw is relaxed. This is great for people that sit all day. Or even have lower back problems. And on our last one, we're just going to hold our feet out. We're going to hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly, you can draw your knees back in. Feet come down on the ground. You can remove the blocks. Taking a nice deep breath. And then slowly, with control, we're going to roll over onto our hands and knees to come into a tabletop position. We're going to tuck the toes and lift the knees off the mat, coming into our first downward facing dog. The belly button is gently tucked in towards the spine, up towards the diaphragm. You'll notice this alleviates any pressure on the lower back. And you can start to bend one knee at a time, walking your dog. Reaching your heel towards the mat, noticing the dip in your hips. Pressing firmly into the LJ space between your hands. Pushing your shoulders away from your ears. It's kind of like you're trying to slide the mat from underneath your hands out underneath your feet. Finding your breath, you can go ahead, straighten your legs. We're going to press into the left hand, and the right hand is going to come on the outside of our left shin, ankle, calf. Taking a nice twist in the spine, feeling the stretch in the legs. Take a deep breath in, and exhale out. Slowly, the right hand can come back out in front of you. Press into that right hand. Left hand will come out on the outside of that right leg. Seeing if you can maintain your hips to be squared. So now we're just rotating from the upper back. Taking a deep breath in and exhaling out. Slowly, the left hand comes back out towards the front of the mat, coming into that downwards facing dog. And you can start to walk your hands back to meet your feet and come into a forward fold. You can grab opposite elbows. You can swing from side to side. You want to make sure that we're hinging from the hip versus the lower back. So if you notice that there's roundness in the lower back, maybe you've gone too far. Meet your body with wherever it's at. And slowly you can start to walk your hands back out in front of you. And you might need to come on your knees. I want you to grab your block, have it close by just in case. And then coming back into that downwards facing dog, we're going to bring our left foot up towards the ceiling, pointing the toes up, taking a nice deep breath, and then exhale, come to bring the left foot in between the hands, coming into a high lunge. You want to press through the back of that right heel, pressing into the center of your left heel, lifting up from the crown. Take a deep breath in, and once you feel that crown engagement, you can go ahead, lift your hands up towards the ceiling. Glutes are squeezed and our ribs are hugging in. They're not flaring out, but they're nice and tucked over our ribs. You should also feel a good stretch on your hip flexor. Taking a nice deep breath in and exhale out. We're going to open up into a warrior two, so rotating onto the outside of your right heel. Hands come out into a T position. Left fingers are pointing towards the left toes and the right hand is behind you. We're making sure that we're pressing into that right heel. It's kind of like we're sliding it over towards the right, allowing the left knee to be placed kind of like you're pressing it behind you. This will help engage that inner thigh and the outer glute. Take a deep breath in. And on your exhale, right hand slides down the right leg, left hand comes up and over. Inhale back into a neutral warrior position. Left hand comes onto the left thigh, and the right hand will come up and over towards the left. Relaxing the shoulders. Notice if they're hiked up towards the ears, can you drop them back? This will engage your core a little bit more. And then from here, we're going to grab our blocks, putting it on the highest setting, putting it in front of your foot. You can lean onto it, and we're slowly going to inch that right leg up until we can straighten that left leg. Pressing into the mat, taking a good deep breath, finding your balance, finding a focal point to look at. Maybe you don't need the block. We're going to be here for 2 more deep breaths. Really press through both of your heels. It's kind of like someone is pulling them in opposite directions. And exhale slowly with control. Bend into that left knee to guide your right foot back down towards the ground. And inhale to come into that warrior two. You can adjust your body if you need to. The left toes are going to point forward. So now we are going to come into a triangle pose. Inhale, the hands come up overhead. And exhale to forward fold. Taking those good deep breaths in. Allowing your nervous system to integrate. Feeling the strength. Notice the difference that you feel from the left to the right side. And then we're going to grab our block and place it towards the right toes. The right toes are going to start to walk over towards the right, and the left toes are going to follow. We're going to come into a lunge position. So now the right foot is in between the hands. Pressing into the back of that left heel, engaging the glutes, relaxing the shoulders, and lifting up from the crown. Once you feel that connection from your tailbone to the tops of your head, engaging the core, you can go ahead, inhale, and lift your hands up. Taking a good deep breath, making sure that the ribs are stacked over the hips, so they're not flaring out, but they're nice and tucked. Engaging the core, kind of like what we were doing on the mat just recently. Rotating onto our left heel, coming into that warrior two. Hands open up, nice towards the left and the right side. Pressing onto the outside of that right heel and pressing the outside of our right knee behind us. Inhale. Exhale, the left hand comes down the left leg and the right hand comes up and over. Feeling a good stretch, finding your balance, finding a focal point to look at. Inhale, using your obliques to come back up into that T position. Then the right hand comes down into the right thigh, press into the outside of that left foot for stability, and the left hand comes up and over. What I like to feel or sense is kind of like someone is grabbing my ankles, and it puts down a little bit of weight, so it feels like that there's a little bit of support there. What would it feel like if somebody was grabbing your ankles right now? You can go ahead and grab your block, press into or place your right hand on it. You can inch it in front of your right foot, and then go ahead, inch the left leg up until you can straighten that right leg. Really squeezing your glutes, reaching all limbs in opposite directions, finding your focal point, engage in the core, find your breath. Yes, you can do this. Remember that there's always a reward after challenges. Take a deep breath in, and slowly with control bend into that right knee as you glide your left foot back down towards the mat, and inhale to come into that standing position. Toes are going to actually point outwards. Our heels are going to come in. We're going to bring our feet to be about 3 feet apart. So walk it in a little bit. We're going to take a deep breath in, hands come up overhead. And on our exhale, hands come to prayer pose in front of our heart. We're going to start to squat our way down to come into a deep squat. If you want to place the block underneath your hips, you can. I need to walk my feet in a little bit more. Notice if you can lift up from the crown, pressing your head up towards the ceiling. Engage in the pelvic floor muscles. Take a deep breath in. This is challenging, but it's good. How can you find the enjoyment in challenges? If you start to like the challenges and the things that are hard, then everything else is simply blissful. Take a deep breath in. And on your exhale, hands come down towards the mat. Start to lean forward and then pressing into your heels to straighten your legs up, using those quads. Coming into that forward fold, you can relax the head down. Finding your breath. And then slowly, you can start to walk your hands over towards one side of the mat. Doesn't really matter, coming down into a tabletop position. The knees are going to be stacked underneath the hips, hip distance apart. Hands are going to come down underneath the shoulders, shoulder distance apart. We're just going to do a few thread the needle. So we're going to press into the left hand, allow the right hand to hover off of the mat. This will engage the core a little bit to find that stability. Shoulders are relaxed. And once you find that, the right palm faces up. We're going to slide it underneath the left armpit to come down onto our right shoulder and our right ear. Taking those deep breaths, feeling the stretch on the back of the shoulder blades, maybe the spine, the neck. Go ahead, press into that left hand, shoulders relaxed. You should feel a lat engagement. And relax in the right hand, coming back into a tabletop position. Pressing into the right hand, allowing the left hand to hover. You'll feel the engagements of the lats, the core, the obliques. Left hand faces up. Belly button is slightly towards the spine. And slide in the left hand underneath the right armpit, coming down onto the left ear. Try to maintain your hips to be squared, so we're not leaning more towards one side versus the other. And slowly press into that right hand. Slowly come back into a tabletop position. We're going to come to sit down onto our glutes. Our legs are going to be extended out in front of us. Your toes are gently going to flex towards the face. Our hands are going to come up overhead on our inhale. On your exhale, you bring the belly button up and in towards the diaphragm. Hinge from the hips, so you press your heart space forward, reaching for your ankles, your toes, your shins, wherever you're at. Once you feel a good stretch on your hamstrings, you can even have a micro bend or a big bend in the knees, and then try to straighten them to press into the heels. You'll notice a slight different activation. And then you can relax the upper body wherever you're at. Taking those 3 deep breaths. And slowly you can start to relax your hands, starting to roll your shoulders back up over your hips. If you have your block nearby, go ahead, grab your block. We're going to come down onto our backs. And we're going to press into our heels, lift our hips off, and we're going to place the block underneath our hips, underneath our glutes. So maybe you find just right above, kind of like the top, highest point of your hips, right before it gets to your lower back area. And then go ahead and just allow your hips to relax down on them. You have the options where you can keep your legs bent here, or you can go ahead and extend your legs out in front of you. You can always modify and adjust the block to wherever it feels comfortable for you. And as always, your hands have the options to be by your side, open into a T, up overhead, grabbing opposite elbows, or just up overhead. Maybe you place them on your belly. Wherever they are, just make sure you can relax the shoulders, relax the jaw, and allow yourself to receive this hip flexor opener. Maybe you feel liberation on the lower back. And if you don't, maybe you need to bend your knees, maybe you need to adjust the block. We're going to be here for 5 deep breaths, so really see if you can breathe into your belly. Guide your breath to wherever your body needs it, wherever your breath wants to go. If your legs were extended out, you can go ahead, start to bend your knees back in. We're going to stay on the block. We're going to walk our feet as wide as the mat, if not a little bit wider. And we're going to allow the knees to concave inwards as if they're trying to touch each other. They may touch, they may not. And you can play around with the stance. If you want your feet to be closer towards the end of the mat, if you want them to be closer towards your hips, if you want to increase or decrease the width between your feet. Notice any sensations that you feel in the pelvic floor area, the hips, the lower back. Sometimes the shifts are so subtle, but they actually can make the most profound changes or impacts on our body. Take a deep breath in and letting it go. Slowly, you can walk your feet back towards center, pressing into your heels, releasing the block, and gently, slowly, with control, be gentle with your back as you place your hips back on the mat. If you want to bring your knees in towards your chest, wrapping your hands around your knees and just gently rock from side to side. Slowly, you can bring your knees back or your feet back down towards the mat. We're going to come into a reverse butterfly pose. So feet come together and your knees are going to open up wide like a book. Rolling the shoulders down and back. You can open your arms, placing them wherever feels comfortable for you. And maybe you come back to the word or the intention that you set for this practice. Does that sensation feel more anchored? Does it feel more sturdy? Does it change at all? Does it bring you back to a state of mind? Taking one more deep breath in and sighing it out. Your hands will come underneath your knees, gently guiding them back up towards center. And if your body needs to make any other movement to feel complete, go ahead and move your body the way that it wants or needs. And if not, you can go ahead, extend your legs all the way out in front of you, rolling the shoulders down and back, closing the eyes, and meeting me in our final resting pose. Allowing your body to integrate, to be present in this moment. And truly to enjoy the sweetness of rest. Slowly start to take a deep breath in from the nose and sign it out the mouth. Starting to bring some life and movement back into the body, wiggling the fingers, rocking the head from side to side. And gently bending the knees. And whenever your body will allow, you can slowly make your way over to come into a cross-legged seated position. Taking a moment just to be here with your body. Close your eyes. Notice your presence, any new insights, sensations in the body. And whenever you're ready, you can place your hands together in front of your heart, taking a moment to honor yourself for showing up, honoring yourself for being here, and thanking yourself, honoring your journey. May you stand in your light and cherish it. Malama Pono. Thank you for practicing with me today.